Right, let's dive right in. We're doing a deep dive today, and we're looking at some pretty major news coming out of Workday.
Yeah.
You've been digging into this.
Yeah.
So, it's big, a company-wide email from CEO Carl Eschenbach himself that is sending shockwaves through the business world. It's got all Job Cut's strategic shifts,
Yeah.
the looming presence of AI.
And what's really interesting, I think, is how Eschenbach's email isn't just about internal changes at Workday.
Yeah.
It's like a window into the future of work itself, especially for those in business and finance who are facing a rapidly evolving landscape.
Okay, so let's break this down. The first thing that hit me was the number 1,750 jobs cut.
Wow.
That's 8.5% of their workforce.
Yeah.
That's a bold move, and Eschenbach, he doesn't shy away from connecting it directly to the rise of AI.
No, he doesn't, and he's very specific about it. He uses phrases like, reimagining how work gets done.
Right.
And what's fascinating here is that he's not just talking about automating tasks. He's hinting at a complete restructuring of how businesses operate. And this has major implications for the job market, particularly in sectors like finance, where AI is already making its presence felt.
So it's not just about replacing humans with robots.
Right.
It's about a fundamental shift in the skills and roles that will be in demand.
Exactly. Eschenbach talks about the need for agility and speed, emphasizing the need to adapt to a world where AI is changing the rules of the game. Companies that can't keep up, especially in fast-paced fields like finance, are likely to face consolidation and potentially even disappear.
That's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
Especially for anyone working in those industries. But I am curious about the human element here.
Yeah.
Obviously, these job cuts represent real people and their livelihoods.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right to highlight that. It's crucial to acknowledge the very real impact on those losing their jobs. While Workday is offering support and resources, it doesn't change the fact that these individuals are facing a difficult transition. And, this situation underscores the urgency for everyone, not just those at Workday, to assess their own skills and consider how they can adapt to this changing job market.
So how do we do that? What does this mean for someone in business or finance who wants to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, if we look closely at Eschenbach's email, we see a few clues. He mentions that even with the job cuts, Workday is actively hiring in key areas.
Oh, interesting.
Like AI and platform development.
So they're investing in the future.
Yes.
But a future that looks very different from the present.
Precisely. And what's particularly interesting is his emphasis on global expansion.
Okay.
He talks about tapping into talent pools around the world, which suggests that the competition for these highly sought-after skills is going to be fierce.
So not only are jobs changing, but the landscape of the job market itself is shifting on a global scale.
And this is where things get really interesting, because this shift isn't just about technical skills. Eschenbach also stresses the importance of things like innovation decision-making and the ability to work quickly and effectively. It's about having a mindset that embraces change and a willingness to adapt.
So for our listeners in business and finance, this is a wake-up call.
Absolutely.
They need to be thinking about the skills that will set them apart in a market where AI is increasingly playing a role and where global competition is only going to heat up.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a crucial question. What are those skills?
Yeah.
And how can individuals take control of their own career trajectories in this evolving landscape?
That's a great question, and one that I think deserves a deep dive all its own.
So picking up on that question about essential skills, let's delve a little deeper into what Eschenbach's email reveals about what it takes to thrive in this new world of work, particularly in business and finance.
Okay.
He uses a phrase that I think gets to the heart of it: overhauling internal processes. This suggests a move away from rigid hierarchies and siloed thinking towards a more fluid and collaborative approach.
So the traditional corporate ladder is being replaced by something more dynamic.
Yeah.
Where adaptability and cross-functional skills are key.
That's exactly it. And this has major implications for career paths in business and finance. Think about it. As AI takes over routine tasks, the value shifts to those who can connect the dots, interpret data, and make strategic decisions in a rapidly changing environment.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
AI might be able to analyze a balance sheet.
Right.
But it can't replace human judgment.
No.
When it comes to navigating complex financial markets or understanding the nuances of client relationships.
Precisely. And that's why skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and communication are becoming even more valuable. Those are the skills that machines, at least for now, simply can't replicate.
So it's not about becoming a tech whiz. It's about honing those uniquely human skills that allow us to leverage technology effectively.
Exactly. Think of it as a partnership between humans and machines. AI can handle the heavy lifting, but it takes a human mind to see the bigger picture, assess risk, and make those crucial judgment calls that drive business success, especially in a field like finance, where decisions often have far-reaching consequences.
And that brings us back to Eschenbach's emphasis on global expansion. How does that factor into the skills equation?
Well, as businesses become more globalized, competition for top talent intensifies. And that means individuals need to develop skills that are transferable across cultures and geographic boundaries. This is particularly relevant in finance, where understanding different markets and regulatory environments is crucial.
So it's not just about technical expertise anymore. It's about having a global mindset, cultural sensitivity, and the ability to communicate and collaborate effectively with people from diverse backgrounds.
Precisely. And this requires a different kind of education and training. It's not enough to just learn the hard skills of finance anymore.
Right.
Individuals need to cultivate those soft skills that allow them to navigate a complex and interconnected world.
It sounds like this is a huge shift for business schools and universities
It is.
that have traditionally focused on a more siloed approach to education.
It is, and it's a shift that many are still struggling to adapt to. The reality is that the job market is evolving much faster than our educational institutions, which is creating a gap between the skills employers are looking for and the skills graduates are equipped with.
So what's the solution? How do we bridge that gap and ensure that individuals are prepared for the jobs of the future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one that we need to address urgently if we want to avoid a widening skills gap and the economic consequences that come with it.
Yeah.
We need to rethink education and training, focusing on cultivating adaptability, critical thinking, and those essential human skills that will set individuals apart in a world increasingly driven by AI.
It sounds like a tall order, but it's one that we can't afford to ignore. The future of work is changing, and it's up to us to adapt and evolve alongside it.
Absolutely. And that's why what's happening at Workday is so significant. It's a microcosm of the larger forces reshaping the global business landscape,
Right.
particularly in fields like finance, where the stakes are high and the pace of change is accelerating.
So for our listeners in business and finance, what are some concrete steps they can take to navigate this new terrain and ensure they're not left behind?
That's a great question, and it leads us perfectly into the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some practical strategies for building a future-proof career in this rapidly evolving world.
Okay, so let's get practical.
Yeah.
We've talked about these big shifts happening in the job market, especially in business and finance. But what can our listeners actually do about it?
Well, the good news is taking control of your career in this new landscape. It's totally possible.
Okay.
Remember Eschenbach's email? He stressed agility and speed.
Right.
That applies to individuals, too. Don't wait for someone to tell you what skills to learn. Anticipate what's coming.
So how do we get ahead of the curve? Crystal ball gazing.
Not quite. It's about being a student of your industry.
Oh, yeah.
Read everything you can. Industry reports, thought leadership pieces, even those boring economic forecasts.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the tech being adopted. You don't need to code, but understanding how AI is changing finance is crucial.
Okay, that makes sense. But reading alone won't make me a financial wizard, will it?
True, but it informs what skills to develop. Let's say you're seeing a lot about AI fraud detection.
Okay.
Take a course on data analytics or machine learning basics. Suddenly, you're not just an accountant.
Yeah.
You're someone who can bridge the gap between finance and tech.
So proactively build those in-demand skills.
Yeah.
Any other tips for standing out in this fierce global competition that Eschenbach mentioned?
Absolutely. This might sound old school, but networking is more vital than ever.
Okay.
Conferences, webinars, even LinkedIn. Connect with people doing the work you aspire to. They offer insights no textbook can.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Exactly.
People love to share their expertise.
A genuine interest goes a long way. Plus, this builds your soft skills, communication, relationship building, those uniquely human things that AI can't replace.
Right. It all comes back to lifelong learning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We can't just rely on our degrees anymore.
It's a mindset shift. The most successful people in business and finance in this new world are the ones who are constantly curious.
Yeah.
They view learning as an investment, not a chore.
So to wrap up this deep dive into Workday's news and what it means for the rest of us, what's the one thing our listeners should walk away with?
That the future of work, especially in business and finance, is exciting and full of potential, but it belongs to those who are adaptable and proactive. Don't be afraid to experiment, to learn new things, and to connect with others who are pushing the boundaries.
That's an inspiring way to end this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining me. And to all our listeners out there, stay curious and never stop learning.